If you're trying to find funding for a feature film, you're probably doing something very wrong, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix it. Hi, my name is Aaron J. Rome. I've been a filmmaker for 20 years, and I founded One Grand Film to help filmmakers fast-track their careers. Over the last 20 years, I've been able to identify a lot of the roadblocks that keep filmmakers from moving as fast as they'd like to, and I've developed a series of systems and courses and communities that can help you unblock those. And in the course of building One Grand Film, I've run into one question more than I've run into anything ever. The number one thing that happens is people ask for financing. I need financing. I need funding for my film. Well, on one hand, this is perfectly understandable. On the other hand, it just shows a massive lack of education around how financing happens. And so I'm going to break down in this video how it happens, why everybody is doing it wrong, and how we can borrow from filmmakers in the past to see how they have leveraged their careers. So let me throw this out there. So you've probably written a script, whether that's a feature film or a short film or a web series or a pilot, and now you want somebody to make it. You've probably put a lot of time into writing it. You've probably maybe put years into writing it, or maybe you've written a whole bunch of things and you just have a stack of scripts laying around and you would love to see something on screen. First of all, I just want to say kudos. Sitting and writing something is incredibly hard. My first script took me 3 years to finish. My second script took me 10 days to finish, which shows you once you learn what you're doing, it goes a lot faster the next time. But here's the moment where I want you to table every understanding you have of how film funding works. This is very important. There are many examples of filmmakers that create their magnum opus right out of the gate. And everybody likes to focus on those filmmakers as what they should do with their own careers. This is a very, very dangerous way of looking at it because you know about them because it worked. But what you don't know is the thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of filmmakers that failed miserably their first time. And many of them went out and raised money, which means they reached out to their valuable contacts and they blew the one opportunity they had on something they weren't ready to make. As filmmakers, we need to realize that this industry is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so you're not going to make a small body of work. You're not going to have 3 successful films or television shows. You're going to have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of films under your belt. So although right now this film that you have in your hand is probably the most important thing you've ever done, I don't want you to focus on it so hard that you put your entire career on hold to try and get this made. So I'm going to break down for you what we can do in the meantime while you have this project finished. If I was a CG artist, I'd just throw a script in my hand for this entire time. And what you can focus on while also trying to get this project made. Let me ask you a question about the script that you're trying to find funding for. What's the budget? If your answer is either more than $200,000 or I don't know, this is the fundamental problem. I know because this is exactly how I started my career. My first script was a $2 million budget. I thought that was a small budget, but what I didn't know 17 years ago was that $2 million is a lot of money. Even for a low budget film, $2 million is not something that anyone is just going to give a first-time filmmaker. The issue with writing a script from scratch is that ideas are free, but as soon as you try and calcify those ideas in a physical medium like film, they become very expensive. As you're writing, you can think, oh, I need to shoot in a stadium, or I need, period piece clothing, or I need some futuristic VFX thing. All of those things are massively expensive. And the issue right now is that you are not a proven entity. Being that person that has a script in your hand makes you, unfortunately, 1 in a million. Or 1 of a million. 1 of a million people that has the exact same thing that you do. And guess what all those other million people are looking for? Funding. So if you're just one raindrop in a hurricane blowing around in the winds trying to show everybody your script, it doesn't differentiate you from everybody else out there doing the exact same thing. The number one thing that every filmmaker in this scenario is missing is proof. Proof of work. What is proof? Proof is an example of the thing that you're trying to get made. Proof is not a pitch deck. Proof is not a sizzle reel. Proof is the carbon copy of the thing that you're trying to make, albeit on a lower scale. So if you're trying to make a feature film and you've got a film script, even if it's placed in a bunch of competitions, it's racked up a bunch of laurels at film festivals, that script, although it might be great, until you have proof that you can execute something to that degree, nobody is going to take a chance on you. And frankly, that just means you haven't earned your stripes. The powers that be are giving these opportunities to filmmakers that have proven themselves. Let's break down a couple of examples of big filmmakers that had their proof and were able to leverage it. The first is Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan didn't start out making epics like Interstellar and Batman. He started with a $50,000 noir film called Following. It's not even 90 minutes long. It barely qualifies as a feature in terms of length. I think it's 75 minutes, which is just pushing it. But what he was able to do in that film is prove two things. One, he's a competent filmmaker. He understands storytelling. And two, he pushed through all the barriers to make a feature film happen. He was able to use that feature film to showcase his unique voice and perspective, which is what the industry is looking for, and prove that an audience wants to see your work. The second example I'll give you is Mark and Jay Duplass, or the Duplass Brothers. They've built one of the biggest indie empires in the film industry, with over 120 credits at this point, and deals with Netflix and HBO. These things all started with a $15,000 film called The Puffy Chair. This was not a traditional film in the sense that they didn't have big grip trucks and a 15-person lighting crew. This was made on a shoestring budget with what looked like a handy cam. But the thing that set it apart from everything else around it was the acting, the performances, and the unique storytelling. Again, the Duplass brothers were able to take their unique voice and put it in a package that the industry could step back and look at it and say, we can trust these people with money. We can trust these people to go out and do this again. The third example is Jim Cummings. Jim Cummings and his team went a little bit of a different route because they didn't go for a feature film straight away. They created a series of short films called Minutes that were all single shot films, meaning there were no cuts, and one of them they struck gold with. It was called Thunder Road. They submitted it to Sundance and South by Southwest, where it won, and then it got developed into a feature in Sundance Lab. Then it got into Sundance and won. Now, from that project, Jim still hasn't grown a gigantic studio film career, but what he was able to leverage from that was a massive audience of people that were truly interested in what he was doing. Again, showcasing that voice through proof. As a result, he's been very active with his community, giving a lot of educational content, being a very vocal voice in the indie filmmaking community. And because of that, he's able to call on his audience and crowdfund his projects. So what can you do? We've seen 3 examples of filmmakers that went out and created their proof and be able to create an entire career off the back of them. You've got this project in your hands. You know it's ready to some degree. Maybe you have a budget, maybe you have a pitch deck, maybe you even have a shooting schedule. Those things are all wonderful. All of that stuff is going to pay off in the future. But the thing that you should do right now is focus on building a proof product from scratch. And the way that you do that is you assemble a team before you ever start shooting. Why? Because every key decision maker within a project is an artist in their own right. They want to feel like they've got skin in the game. From your art director to your DP to your editor to your composer, knowing that they're coming together on a collaborative project in the onset of the project is going to do 2 things. One, it's going to get them super excited and motivated about making this project right now with you, which divides the labor. So you've got a few people focused on different key areas of the filmmaking process. The second thing it's going to do is offset your cost. When you take a project that's already been developed out into the industry, everybody that's going to be involved with it is going to be considered a work for hire. Day rates in the film industry are not cheap, and if you're out there sourcing people to come and work on your project, they want you to pay them. The flip side of that is finding people that are as excited as you are, that can work on back end, that will put in sweat equity to help you make the project from the beginning. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to join a filmmaking community. If you don't have one, I'll leave mine in the description below. Feel free to join it. It's free. You can come and collaborate with other filmmakers and find people that fill the skill gaps that you don't have. A filmmaking community can help you find excited people from the onset. And the great thing about this is every single job title in this industry has to start somewhere. Everybody needs those first few proof projects on their own resume to help leverage whatever they're trying to achieve. Now, getting filmmakers to work with you for free or for very cheap, like $100 a day, is commonplace. Mark Duplass is a wonderful example of a $200,000 budget, and then everybody makes a ton of money on the back end. This is commonplace. I understand it might make some of you feel uncomfortable. I've done it in my films, and I train people how to do this in their own films. Be super transparent. Let them know that you have a passion project. You're trying to make a feature film for no money, and you're looking for your group of dedicated artists to come together and make it with you. I guarantee you people will be interested in this. Put together that proof project. Make something from scratch. If you need a place to do that, I have two communities. They're linked in the description below. One is a free community to collaborate with other filmmakers, and the other is a paid community. It's more advanced, and it's filmmakers that are actually making their feature films. Now, I'm going to give you one last key lesson that I learned from Mike Flanagan. This is exactly what I did with my own career. I made my first film for $1,000. I found a few of my most dedicated, most talented friends and put them together to make a movie. From that movie, I was able to leverage my next movie, which was a $50,000 budget. I needed the proof in place to be able to go make the thing I wanted to make. I even leveraged these same skills to make a web series that competed at the Emmys in 2019. The most important part of that was it put me in the room with Mike Flanagan. If you don't know who he is, he's a big horror director. He's done a bunch of Netflix shows and a bunch of big movies. And Mike had a very similar career start where he made a $50,000 horror film called Absentia. What it did is it proved the voice of a new filmmaker, and you could see the competence necessary to run a bigger set, which is what we have to do before somebody's going to give us a lot of money. And Mike broke down the 3 steps that I still hold near and dear to my heart to making a meaningful film career happen. Step 1, make your proof film. Make your tiny little budget film. Now, I say $50,000. In reality, we shot end trip. We shot principal photography in 5 days for $11,000. Although, yes, our total budget ended up being $50,000, we only had to raise $11,000 to actually get the film in the can. From there, we were able to put an edit together of the first act, and then we took that act that looked really good and nice and polished out to investors to get finishing funds. Again, we needed proof in the pot to be able to take to people and show them the promise of what this project could be. From there, Mike said, you're going to make your $50,000 budget movie, then you're going to make your $250,000 budget movie. Again, how do you do that? You take all of the reviews, all of the laurels, all of the successes that you can attribute to your $50,000 film. You take it to people and say, I need $250,000 to make this film. From there, you make your $250,000 film. You do the exact same thing with that one, and you get your $1 million or your $5 million film made. Now, the thing that any decision maker can see is from project to project, if the level of filmmaking is there, if the voice is consistent, then they understand that there is a new artist here that deserves to be heard, that deserves to be seen. And along that process, you're building a small foundational audience that gets larger and larger with each project. Every fan that you make is another butt in the seat for the studio that's eventually going to fund this project. If you're looking for a filmmaking community, a place where you know it's a safe space, where nobody's going to laugh at you for trying to make something for nothing, and that has the built-in framework to make a feature film for little to no money, come and check out one or both of my communities on School. One is free, the other one is paid. It's a little bit more advanced. I'd love to see you in there. I'd love to meet you. Book an onboarding call with me. I'd love to hear about how I can help you achieve your cinematic dreams. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.